Welcome to the solar eclipse in Aries circle. We're going to be talking about this final eclipse for this eclipse season, and it's actually the final eclipse in Aries, closing out an even broader cycle when we first had the North Node move into Aries way back 4/20/2023 was our first Aries eclipse of the cycle. So that's going to be relevant because that's when that's the starting chapter, and now we are in the closing chapter of that energy. So go back in time to your life in April 2023 and think about what was going on for you at that time. And that energy is coming full circle now, and we're moving on. We're moving on from it. The nodes have shifted. North node's in Pisces now. It's not in Aries anymore. So this is the last eclipse for this time, for the time being, with it being in Aries. Oh my God, we have so much in Aries and in Pisces right now. Everything is right in this ending point, it's slash beginning point, because Aries is the beginning of the whole astrological wheel. So it is not just the beginning because it's a new sign, it's the beginning because it's the beginning energy. So that feeling of things just falling away or starting up is what's happening right now. And it's been happening all year. And it's actually going to continue because we're going to have Saturn move into Aries and Neptune move into Aries this year. And they're going to stay there. Neptune's going to be there for about 14 years. Saturn's going to be there for about 2.5 years. And then we have the North nodes that just shifted into Pisces, and that's going to be there for a little bit of time as well. And it's just that in between, that like the ending beginning energy. It's not going away yet, and I think it's going to be it's about finding the comfort in that process and finding the way to get really excited about fresh things coming in and really excited about letting go of the things that we want to let go of. So this is a partial eclipse, solar eclipse, which means it's a new moon eclipse. So the sun, the moon, they're together in the same sign. They're both at 8 degrees Aries when this occurs on the 29th. And the time it's going to occur, I actually wrote it down today, is it's going to start going into the eclipse 4:50 in the morning Eastern time on the 29th, and it's going to be finishing 6:47 a.m. Eastern time. So you might be able to catch a glimpse of it depending where you live. Otherwise, just know that that's what's happening at that time. And yes, okay. So much. So let I want to talk a little bit about Aries again, because this is that closing up energy from when we had the North Node in Aries. So whenever we have transiting nodes, we do feel individually, but it is a very collective process. It's taking us on a journey to a specific archetype in a very collective way. We see it play out in communities, in governments, like everywhere. But we also see it in our life, and you're going to see it in, and we can go through this at the end, the place that you have Aries in your birth chart, the house, that's the energy that was coming up at that time period. So if you know your rising sign at the end, we can go through and I can tell you what house you have Aries, and then that's what we're going to be really focusing on for this. But overall, Aries energy is this process of being who you are. It's being an individual. And when we're looking at the nodes, we're not just looking at the North Node. We're always looking at the North and South Node. They always move together. They interact with each other. We need both of them to create that balance. You don't want to forget about the South Node and just go all in on the North Node and vice versa. And so for Aries, the North Node being in Aries, or where it was, the South Node when it was in Libra, is about learning to let go of our codependencies and our over like needingness of someone to be there for us, do it for us, do it with us. We're relying on that other person or other energy or other thing, whatever it is that kind of just keeps you in this codependent situation. It doesn't have to be with a person, it can be with foods, like tools, whatever it is, and going towards doing it on our own, paving a path, not needing anybody else to follow us or be there, but standing in your own truth, your own power. And Aries, a lot of times is the trailblazer.
Jasper. Where's
Um,
Lucky?
Jasmine, can you mute yourself? Let's see if I can mute her thing.
Lucky.
Mm, okay. Sorry, Jasmine, thanks. Um, okay. So yes, so it is a trailblazer. It's a fresh energy. It's all about leading the way into something completely new, potentially unknown. And a lot of times it's going to like it can kind of put people off. Like they're kind of just everyone being in their own way of perceiving things, and they might not necessarily relate to how you're perceiving things. It's like it's about that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. It doesn't matter whether or not somebody is right there with you on the same page as you. So through that process, we're learning how to just stand in our own truth and experience things in a fresh way from a new perspective. It's just a very new way of looking at the world. So that was the prominent energy during that time period, starting back in 2023, early 2023, up until just recently. The nodes shifted back in February, but then this eclipse is the final expression of this standing in your own power, not needing to rely on outside influence or things to take you anywhere. You can be all you are all you need. Everything that you need is within you. Um, okay. So one of the things as well when we were going through that North Node in Aries is the importance of not forgetting the wisdom piece of Libra. So we wanted to let go of the negative attributes of Libra, um, but we want to hold with it the balanced nature of Libra. Libra with Aries, it can almost be too, it has a potential to be very overpowering, very masculine, forward, and aggressive. It's ruled by Mars. It's very like, we're gonna do it this way or no way. But Libra is all about the balance. It's the scales. So it's helpful when we were in that process, especially in that time period, um, to be holding on to the like bringing up whatever we need to balance out wherever we're at. So if we're too feminine in our approach, you want to be able to bring back out the masculine part, bring out the logic, bring out a critical thinking, like bring out the structure. If you're too masculine in your approach, you want to know when that is so that you can bring out the more feminine nature within, looking at things more objectively, more flow, more openness. So those were the big themes from the past couple years. And now with a solar eclipse and with a new moon in general, but it's extra amplified with a solar eclipse, there is a inward focus. There is almost a stillness that kind of comes at this time period. It's like going quiet a little bit. Your self becomes almost dampened. your ego can kind of be have the potential to be sort of blocked out a little bit. And it could also feel like your identity, like your self sense of who you are might feel hard to access because with an eclipse, the solar eclipse, the moon is going in front of the sun. You can't really see the sun, you just kind of see the rays shining on the outside of it. And the moon is blocking it out, it goes black. And the sun in astrology represents our personality and our vitality, our ego, like who we think we are, or how we really show up in this physical world. So during these types of eclipses in this time period, it's okay to feel slightly uncomfortable and slightly like just off, a little bit even disoriented or wanting to be quiet or wanting to be still. Um, and that's, that's part of it. That is part of the process. So give yourself time, if possible, to not have to be who you think you need to be. Like, you don't have to be who you think you are. You know what I mean? You know how we sometimes will go out and be like, okay, if I go to the store, I kind of have to act this certain way. Or if I talk to this person, I have to be like this. I have to do, like, you have these expectations of how you're supposed to be, who you need to be, how you need to show up. And if possible, just let all that completely drift away. You don't have to be any kind of way. You don't have to be any kind of personality. You don't have to know who you are, in this time period. You don't have to, you can completely change how you thought that you were. Like these are the things that can come up with a solar eclipse because your identity, your ego is kind of getting a break. It's taking a break and you can have the deeper ability to make subconscious changes um in a more permanent way if you so choose, because you can just reach a little bit deeper within of like, why do I act that way? Like, why am I showing up as that person? Is that really who I am? Is that who I really want to be? So those might be some questions that you ask. I think with eclipses, especially solar eclipses, and what I'm getting from this eclipse is you don't have to go out of your way and do anything crazy. You don't have to like do some elaborate anything. You can if you want to, obviously, but I would say the biggest thing, if you can, is take some time away from external things, people, whatever is happening outside of you, and just let yourself be in the whatever the energy is. If it's chaotic, let it be chaotic. If it's down, let it be down. If it's super excited and happy, let it be that. And don't put any expectations or any kind of mental trying to figure out what it should be on that process. Um, okay, I want to talk about the gene key that's associated with this degree of Aries. It's 8 degrees Aries. It's the eighth or it's the 17th gene key, and it's the 17th gate in human design. And this in human design, it's located in the ajna, which is the third eye. So this is or the mind. So this can be kind of a mental energy. And it's the gate of opinions in human design. And in what I really want to go into is the gene keys. In the gene keys, the three, the process from the gene keys, the shadow, the gift, the city, which is this transformative process of this expression, the full spectrum of what this energy represents. The shadow of it is opinion, the gift is farsightedness, and the city is omniscience. Omniscience. Oh my God. I feel like that's a tongue twister for my brain. All knowing, right? And it's called the eye. So this is a really cool one. It's kind of funny now that I think about it, like a solar eclipse literally looks like an eye, doesn't it? So that's kind of cool as well. Whoa, that just gave me chills for a second. So let's talk about the shadow because we're people, we're humans. Yeah, we're gonna express the shadow at some point, regularly, probably in cycles. Um, when we can uncover the shadow, we actually that just doing that is the beginning process of moving into the higher expression of whatever that is, into the gift. So the shadow of opinion is the idea, it's you being able to form a judgment, to look at something, judge it, create an opinion, and then from that opinion, you live your life. And humans do that. Animals don't do that. Other living things don't do that. And so, in a deep, profound way, in a beautiful way, sets us apart, right? Like we are set apart from the animal kingdom, from the plant kingdom for multiple reasons. Um, there's beautiful reasons and there's also difficult reasons, and so in a beautiful way, it sets us apart, and we're able to come to different conclusions and use our mind in these really powerful ways. In a negative sense, it creates division from all of creation. We feel divided from everything because we create separation and judgments. And so in this shadow, it's actually the beginning of conditioning. And we get these opinions sort of passed down through religions, through society, through our parents, through so many different ways. And our opinions are, in the deeper layer of an opinion, there is a sort of conditioning. There's a way of looking at a thing. Like, oh no, we look at it like this. We have this opinion. So that's how we go through life. This is this and this is this. Everything is sort of segmented and separated. And in this gate, or in this key, this shadow of this key, um, he was saying that Richard Rudd writes in there that the opinions correlate with the left hemisphere of the brain, which is the more masculine way of thinking. It's logic based, it's patterns. And the opinions, it's you're literally looking for flaws in everything. Okay, that's like how you're basing opinions. You're looking to make a judgment on flaws that exist in your outside and inside. And when you're finding these flaws, that's when you start to create different stories, and you start to create from there your whole perception of reality. Everything is from, like, humans are really good at creating stories from things, even if we don't even know the full story. Because with this shadow, it's not about looking at the full picture and then dialing in on something. That's the feminine view. The feminine's going to look at everything and then it'll look at into one thing. The masculine view is going to be one thing and then, maybe eventually everything, but it's like one thing at a time. It's lasered in. And that can be, obviously beneficial in certain aspects. But overall, it's very difficult to for this one, right? You look at the city, it's knowing everything. You can't really know everything if you're only looking in on one little thing. And you're completely closed off to everything else. And with opinions, we're creating separation. I'm right, you're wrong. This is this, and this is not this. So it's a lot of two-dimensionality. And it's makes sense because we live in a dualistic world, right? Masculine, feminine, left, right. Everything is dualistic. And it's not that that is wrong, but we'll see also in the gift is once you can understand that there's a third level, a third aspect to everything, then you are transcending that shadow. And that's why we have the third eye, right? So this whole gift is about activating the third eye and seeing from the third perspective, in all ways. So through language, through our like feminine, masculine perspectives, through governmental perspectives, how everything that has a duality to it, it's being able to see from the third perspective. And the more that we do that, the more we're tapping into a higher frequency and are moving out of the shadow and into the gift. So, um, Oh yeah, and another really important thing to note as well is when we're dealing with the mind, especially a balanced mind is going to be looking from the feminine perspective, and the masculine perspective will always serve the feminine perspective in the mind because the feminine perspective is seeing the whole picture. It's kind of the idea of you want to lead with your heart, your mind is a beautiful thing, and the masculine perspective, it doesn't matter male or female, it's irrelevant. The masculine perspective, it serves that beautiful purpose of being able to take something and truly like articulate something or break it down, see these details, measure things, go into very specific understandings. And the mind will like look at something and be able to be like, okay, this is a computer, it's this dimension, I could fit this dimension and this dimension, like all those things like that. But then the heart is going to actually connects very deeply to the intuition, to the third eye. And what you'll see when we go into the gift in the city as well, and we'll go into some of the dream arc animals too, and what they say is honestly, it's more about the heart than it is about the third eye. It's essentially having an open heart is being all knowing, is being able to see from the like third perspective, outside of conditioning, outside of opinions. Opinions aren't wrong or bad. And it's essentially even seeing that there is nothing wrong or right. There is no, oh, this is bad and this is good. It's like opinions aren't even bad or good. Nothing really is. And if you could just take this third perspective and see a broader picture of what's going on, you free yourself and you are able to um connect deeper to everything. And then you actually are able to see into and project into the future, which is like third eye and the psychic sense of being able to see and have these premonitions. Okay, before we go on to the gift, which I feel like I'm already talking about, I want to talk about the dream arc animal for this 17th shadow, which is the silkworm. And it's it's one of the leapers. So in the dream arc, there's like different sections of what the animals like go into, and this is one of the leapers. It's the fear of openness. And I'll read you some of the things that the silkworm had to say in its little thing that it was written out. So one of the things the silkworm was saying is the fact that even though there is power and obviously a good reasoning to have rhythms, structure, routines. Like there's a beauty in that. There's a lot of power in rhythms. Um, though that's the case, sometimes these established rhythms have to be broken. We have to have change sometimes. So that's also what this shadow is about. It's like you might have your opinion and it's like, oh, this is my opinion, but having that flexibility. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention with the opinions of how to navigate and work with that. And using your opinions in a way that is holistic is going into your opinion with a curiosity, with a playfulness. It's when we get into the seriousness that's like that we have like aggression, and there can just be more tension and more rigidity, and then we don't want to listen to what anybody says. If you have your opinion but you're curious, you're open, then have your opinion, and that's the ideal way to have an opinion. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So back to the silkworm. Another thing that the little silkworm, so cute. I just like thinking about its cute little like, I don't know, like how what a cool little creature. The silkworm says you need to let go of your need to be right, you know. Let go of your need to be right. To be open in mind, heart, and soul is to be utterly free. And this requires taking leaps of faith. So all opinions, um, like when we have opinions, we're having a bias. And so therefore it's incomplete. And if we are just sort of releasing all opinions, you know, that creates mental uncertainty. And you might feel like, well, if I can't believe this or that, like, we kind of like, what do we do then? And that's where it comes to this taking leaps of faith idea. Letting things be uncertain. You don't have to know everything. You're not gonna know everything. It's impossible. We're just people. We have our views and our views are changeable. Um, and then the last thing from the silkworm is the freedom of not having to worry about what you or anybody else thinks. It doesn't even matter. It literally doesn't matter. Um, my dad would always say that other people's opinions of me or whoever is not your business. Like it's not your business what anybody else thinks of you. And it's not your business of, like what you think of someone else. Like, it's just it doesn't really matter. We are who we are, we're doing what we're doing, and if you have the like the silkworm was even saying, letting go of that need to be right, then you don't care about what anybody else thinks, and you don't really care about doing something wrong or right and having self-judgment on what you're doing and how you're living. You just do what's right based on what gives you energy, what feels good, what feels truthful, what feels inspiring. And then life is going to bring you different situations and expand you and grow you and broaden your perspectives on its own. Okay, so the gift, farsightedness. So literally the ability to see far, far into the future, far into the next thing. Um, this is so what Richard Rudd says about this gift is the true purpose of this gift is to serve and uphold integrity by challenging all misrepresentations of truth in the world. So he really closely related this gift to the key 18's gift, which is integrity. So farsightedness and integrity, they go hand in hand. And this gift entails a higher form of cognition. So it's the next level of opinions. And it's not about controlling other people's life, making someone believe what you believe, which just leads to arguments. It leads to it's not necessarily helpful. You can't force anybody to believe anything anyways. But it's about being able to see and differentiate the patterns that either raise or lower your frequency. I mean, it's super simple when you think about it like that, It's not about like this is right or this is wrong. It's like what's gonna raise our frequency or lower it? Like we probably all want to raise our frequency, probably, hopefully, maybe. Even if you don't, it doesn't really matter, but you just know that that's gonna lower it, that's gonna raise it. Okay, maybe you experiment a little bit. Oh, that did that. It's not necessarily right or wrong. It just is what it is. It's the truth of what it is. And then this gift is all about the opening of the third eye. And you begin that process by seeing the importance, or sorry, the lack of importance of trying to identify with a specific opinion. It doesn't really matter. It's not that is clouding your third eye. That is clouding your vision, the broader vision, when you are so focused on a specific opinion. Okay. And again, when you are being able to tap into that third level of that sight, you are opening up to higher realities, higher dimensions, higher frequencies. And if you think about it, the more that if you are just identifying what's lowering or raising my frequency, and just identifying that, you're already raising your frequency because you're gaining awareness. And then if you start acting on the things that raise your frequency over and over, and you listen to those things, then what do you think is going to happen? You become more open. Now you're instantly more receptive because you're listening to yourself. So now you're louder. Your heart is speaking to you clearer. You have a deeper connection and you're raising your frequency because you're doing the things mostly that are raising your frequency because you've kind of figured it out at this point. Okay, if I don't sleep and then I drink like 3 cups of coffee and then I eat like McDonald's breakfast, I'm gonna feel like crap like all day, probably for a week. I mean, who knows? So you kind of you have a good idea of at least the obvious things that are doing that. And what's the greatest form of self-love? You know, not doing things that lower us into painful, uncomfortable things consciously, you know? So make choices from self-love, make choices from that perspective without shame, guilt. There's no right or wrong. Again, it is what it is. It's literally just what it is. And this key is actually connected to true science, which has been so skewed at this point. I mean, I think we all have seen that where it's like people saying things are science or scientific, but it's not because it's actually not even following any sort of scientific method of experimentation. Like science is very naturally at its core very open. Everything is theory. Everything is theory that and it's never nothing is ever actually right in true science. There's no proved science. It's not a thing. Everything can always be changed and we can always learn more. They're always learning more. So to ever think that we just know that that's just is what it is ridiculous. Like it's impossible. It's not possible to do. So this is the true scientist, this key. If you have this key in your chart, a prominent piece in your chart, you have this very naturally within you. Obviously, all have all of the, everything. We have everything. We have all the astrology signs, all the gene keys, all the human, we all have it all, but some people are just here to express certain energies in a more powerful, concentrated way. So if you have this prominent within you, you're very scientific, naturally scientific, and you're helping humanity through these processes. Um, okay. So the dream arc animal for the gift, this one's super cute too, is the giraffe. Makes sense, right? Farsighted, the giraffe, he's gonna see way above the trees. He doesn't see what no one else sees what the giraffe is seeing. And and that's one of the healers, one of the healer animals. And it's all about loving farsightedness. And it's the draft goes in detail, all about opening your heart. It barely talks about your third eye. It's all about opening your heart. So the draft literally says, open your heart, nothing else matters. To see far without an open heart is the most painful thing imaginable. Your heart holds the answers to your life. I mean, you know, that's crazy, right? But it's so true. It's like, if you just go about life with a closed heart, it doesn't matter what you do, what you know, what you like, what you have, nothing really matters. And then how do I open my heart? Well, the draft says, listen to the messages of your heart. It will tell you everything you need to know. Never going to leave you hanging. You might not really hear it at first. You might have to really get quiet. It might be super, super subtle. You might hear it and then not do the thing, you know, but over time, you will learn to hear that voice louder and louder and clearer and clearer. Okay. So the city, um, omniscience, I think that's how you say it. All knowing, right? With the cities, this is like a frequency that most people are not going to be embodying for their whole life. You might touch on it in your life. Some people might get to that point where they are like a Buddha, a Jesus, one of those kinds of people, like Yogananda, someone who just can embody that frequency. But it is possible. And it's becoming more and more possible as we are slowly going into a golden age, like we are in the beginning parts of what will be a golden age. And so this all-knowing process is the complete opening of the third eye. So it's not just that it's open and you can see a thing and you can, with the gift, it's like your third eye's open, you see a path. This is like the third eye is all open. You see the whole force, you see every path that could be taken. Like you just see and know it all. Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory. It is that energy of that full, just complete third view. Just completely letting go of this duality perspective and seeing from the third broad perspective of oneness of everything. And then through that and with a completely open heart, you will just know everything that you need to know. Everything that there is, I guess. Okay, and the dream arc animal for the city is the peregrine falcon. And for all the cities, their dream arc animal is so for the dream arc, all the fear animals are insects or reptiles. All the gift animals or life keys are mammals. And then all the vision keys or the ones for the city are all birds. Okay. So this is the peregrine falcon. It's one of the hunters and it's the vision of the third eye. And the falcon says to activate your ability to know and see everything. The way to do that is through honesty and kindness. So both must be applied internally and externally. Um, and once you see beyond opposites, you find the true view. So those are the two main things that the falcon was saying. Um, it's kind of takes it back to an almost very like it's kind of a simple place. I feel like we think we need to be this rigid, like if I want to get anywhere in my life or be any kind of awakened person, I need to meditate for 12 hours a day and I need to climb these mountains. I need to do this and like I have to have this rigorous, like I have to hold my arm up in the air, whatever. Like I have to just never eat again, whatever it is, but it just comes back down to honesty and kindness. Have an open heart. Like, don't get caught in your own bias or your own perspective so strongly that you're making fights with everybody. So it really just comes back to that. And yes, I want to open it up to you guys before we get off and hear from you if you have anything you want to share. And then also, if you know your rising sign, it can tell you where you have Aries. And that's going to be where you've had this. This is where the closing out is happening. But also, there's more stuff coming into Aries. So it's not like goodbye. It's just for this specific North Node, South Node situation that we had the past couple of years. But okay, I'm opening it up to you guys.
Well, I can mention something briefly that I heard it on a Insight Timer like live event today. And it wasn't necessarily related to like any like current event like astrology sort of things. They were doing this particular person does a lot of thing with like spirit guides and spirit animals and they had this one oracle card deck that they pulled out something and it was they were doing a reading on a cave and the way that they described the cave, it was like a point of like refuge and obviously a place to rest and to hibernate. And something about that really kind of resonated with me about because to me it felt a little bit more than just like self-care rest. It felt like, okay, I'm like hunkering in this cave where I can do some more, introspection. I can do the healing without the external stimulus, even like light. And it's like once I heard that, I was like, okay, that's where I need to be within, that's where I needed to be during this last like lunar eclipse, but maybe throughout this weekend. It was interesting when you said how like the sun or during the I think the solar eclipse that the moon blocks out the sun, so you're like you can go deeper into you go correct me if I misinterpreted that, but
Yeah.
um that seems like being in like a cave where you're kind of hibernating would be a great place to do that. So
Yeah, you know, and like certain, because do you remember when there was that solar eclipse last spring, the full one that you
yeah.
could see,
Hmm.
everyone could see it, and we were in Mexico at the time, and I remember trying to research because I'd never seen like a full solar eclipse, and like where I could see it in my life, but um just trying to figure out like what do people do during like solar eclipses like traditionally, like what's the thing to do, and it wasn't, I couldn't really find that much information, but I remember feeling like one thing that I was seeing is a lot of people, especially for kids, and like covering your head. It was like covering your head, and it's almost like being in a cave. Like a lot of cultures would not go out and be like, I'm gonna go see the eclipse. Like that's just us being like, oh my God, so cool, and nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But the energy is like kind of like shield away, go within, don't be out there like la la la. It's not like a full moon and you're like dancing on fire. It's like really kind of creepy, like, ooh, the sun is going black for like however many minutes. It's very auspicious. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. It is like that cave inward kind of like duck down, look downward almost, look to the shadows of yourself. And yeah, hunker down like you're saying. Just take that space away. It's not to be like avoiding people, but it's just taking that energy to go and be in the cave. And then you'll come out and you'll be like, wow, I got this insight, or I feel different, or something shifted, or whatever it is.
yeah, that especially I think the way that you phrased it with again like going deeper kind of into the ego, but like we can be in the cave or that sort of cave without like a purpose or without like a goal or without like, oh, I'm going into this cave so I can do some like shadow work or some self, like even though that might ultimately be what comes up, like not going into it, trying to force it just to like, let me just see if I can really settle down and get that voice in my head to just kind of dissolve and just see what happens. So yeah.
Yeah. I think, I really think that that's the best way to do it. And especially with this one too, like with the where this is at, activating this gene key, it's just kind of funny because it's also saying like releasing these opinions, like releasing these things you think that you need to be like, oh, I have to think about this, like this, like that. It's like just let them be. Like it's fine if they're there, but don't try to go into them. Don't try to amplify it at all. Just kind of let it be wherever it is. And like you're saying, release expectations of what is gonna come through. Nothing needs to come through. So it's like, oh, nothing happened. It's like, okay, that's totally fine too. Things happen energetically. We might not, it might have been so subtle and so perfect and like so subconscious that you don't even realize what happened. And that's totally cool too. Cause then it's like, oh, cool, better for me. Cause then maybe I'm not like a wreck or something, but regardless, yeah, I think if you're trying to put expectations, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna write down all my whatever, and like I'm gonna do this special thing I'm gonna do. Like, I don't think you need to do that. I don't think it's aligned with what is happening. for I would say, but obviously you got to do whatever you feel the pull to do at the end of the day. And I know for you, you're a Gemini rising. So this is your 11th house. So this is closing out this chapter in groups, in community. And it's not closing it out like you're not going to be in community again, because it is not just like, it's not, the Aries energy is not ending. It's actually just cranking up. But with the North Node, South Node connected thing with the eclipses from the past 2 years have been community, 11th house, 5th house. That's where it's been. So it's been communities and collaborations. That's the North Node. And even our hopes and wishes and how we come together to make things happen. And then the 5th house, which is your own creativity in your own like perspective, doing it your own way, having fun while you're doing it though. It's like that purely personal creative energy. The 11th house is like, we're going to collaborate with everybody else's creative energy as well. So those two things, for anyone who's a Gemini rising in this room, that's what is sort of coming full circle. Like we have learned how to connect in a better way. We've learned how to take our energy and not lose ourselves, especially because it's Aries. Like we're not losing ourselves in the group. We're not melding into the group and becoming like a hive mind, but we are like, bam, bam, let's like, we hit on each other's things and become like this stronger piece, while we're in our power. We're not giving that away. We're not being held back by a tool or a person or some other thing. We're doing it and we're connecting with people that are also doing it.
So just to clarify that in April of 23,
Yeah.
you're saying that those two aspects of wherever it landed in our house, that those were what were being tested, or being that they were, or maybe not tested is not the right word, but there were opportunities for that to play out.
That's when we started having the solar eclipses and lunar eclipses in Aries and Libra.
Okay.
That's when it first started for that cycle.
Yeah. So it was interesting when you were talking about that. I went through, and this is a great practice for other people to try to do, go through your camera, your photos, and go to that April time. And I was like, ugh, kind of shuddered a little bit because I knew exactly what I was doing based off of the photos. And yeah, that was not a fun time. So
do you feel beyond it? Do you feel like a new level of that?
yeah, I mean, I feel, I mean, a lot better about it, a lot better about my own boundaries. And it was when I was at my previous job that was just completely burning me out.
Wow.
So yeah, there's more that I'll have to dive into that, but in terms of just feeling a little bit more able to stand in my own, but also to do that and collaborate without losing my sense of self, that's gotten better. And that's what was really challenging at that previous job.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense too. All the things you're saying about the self and coming more into your own and like having the boundaries of what you're actually here to do and how you're here to do it. So yay, full circle. First full circle moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Preet.
I was just going to say the other Gemini ascendant. I don't know how many others are in the room, but at that April time for me, and I also do that too, Paul. Look through my photos and go, it's a great way to do it. So for me, it was my last bleed, which is an ending and a beginning. But also for me, was the beginning of me starting a series of sacred fires burning messages of my trauma. So I have a good friend that is a palm reader, and she says that through different exercises, you can completely change the lines on your hand. So she gave me a series of these exercises to do, and because of the shape of my hand, for me, the most powerful thing to do is to do all of these exercises through fire. And during that last bleed that I had, I did these fires as well. So, and I did see massive changes in my hand, and I took photos to prove it.
Holy crap. That's crazy. And wow, like how powerful, and like fire, and then your last bleed and it's Aries as well, which is just
Oh,
so
I know.
perfect. Holy
But I'm
crap.
just trying to think too of it in relation to collaborations and community and things like that, but my mind isn't really going there right now. Just thinking of that particular instance and things that have occurred around that.
Maybe it just changed how you are, and so you are recognized in community settings differently.
Yeah.
Maybe more than there being certain communal instances, like you changed into more of yourself and
Yeah.
a stronger self, more defined, and people see you differently.
Yeah. It was a very powerful moment though. And at that time too, we were staying, it was our first time living in our caravan, and we were staying on this amazing property with, like, it was quite far away from the ocean, but we had ocean views. So it was quite beautiful, and there were sheep everywhere, and there was such annoying sheep. But anyway, and while I was trying to do this little ceremony, the sheep were really curious, and they kept coming in and trying to watch me. And
That's
and
crazy
then my
though. The sheep, Aries, the
oh my God, all these little things.
That's crazy.
And because I had this feeling too that it was my last bleed, and everything did feel so potent, and I'd never really done this before, so I did like some little face paint with blood on my third eye, and it just, yeah, it felt really very powerful.
How did you know it was your last bleed?
I don't know, I just felt like it was,
Wow.
and it was, except on the girl's birthday every single year, I have had these massive, massive bleeds. And then that particular year, I had one little tiny spot come, but it was nothing.
Wow.
So it wasn't like a full bleed, but yeah. And then last year I thought, oh my God, am I going to have another little one of those moments? But nothing happened.
Wow. That's crazy. What, like that, the synchronicities, that's just insane. So powerful. Like, that's crazy. Well, that's amazing. Closing that out, and now on to the next chapters. So powerful. Oh my God. Okay. And
I'll
then,
share the, I'll share a photo with you, Nicole.
yes, yes, send me all the photos. Oh my God. Roseanne said that she's an or a Gemini rising as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and I have my chart right here. My chart was done in the Placidus cross system. What do you think of that system, Nicole?
Oh, I think they're both good. I personally use whole sign because I've just really found it to be very powerful. I like the consistency of the degrees, but Placidus, I found interesting correlations when you read it, Placidus and whole sign together. You still kind of come to similar understandings. So I really think that just do whatever resonates, go with that. There's no right or wrong. I personally like whole sign, but that's just me.
Okay. So from in this chart, Aries starts in the middle of my 11th and goes into my 12th. Um, and it is interesting. I didn't know when the North Node moved into Aries, but that was about the time I had been through this difficult time after my husband died 6 years ago. And then COVID hit and I got pretty isolated. And throughout the 12 years he was ill, I was pretty isolated. And it was probably about that time in 2023 where I went, I have to do something. I have to consciously start cultivating more community and more friends. And I did. And it was a slow process because I'm a strong introvert and I was in a pretty low place energetically. But just recently, I've been going, wow, I am really feeling the fruits of this effort. It's paying off. So I'm feeling much more connected in some communities of like minded people, as well as a couple of close friendships that are just really beautiful. So now on the fifth house, though, my fifth house in my chart is empty, and I've had these blocks around creativity. And I have been making some forward movement there. I'm taking an open studio art class. I want more, though. I want a lot more in the creativity area. And for some reason, I have a hard time. I say I'm going to. That was one of the things I focused on in the Activate course. I'm going to focus on this, and
Yeah.
then things keep coming up, and I'm like, oh, I have to do this survival stuff first, But anyway, I do see how I'm glad you told the date of when the nodes moved into Aries and Libra.
It's
But I have a question. I had mentioned I'm not familiar with the gene keys. It's pretty new. How how did you know the eclipse was associated with a particular key?
So all you do is you look at the degree of whatever astrology event is happening. So this is 8 degrees Aries. And then there's a chart. Let me see. You can like Google it. It looks like this.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
like the human design wheel, astrology wheel. So you'll just look, okay, Aries, and then the beginning of Aries, it'll have like different numbers. So you just look, oh, okay, it's either 25 or 17. I know it's not 25. And so it's 17, and then you can just type in Google Gene Key 17 and then just check and make sure that it's within that degree. And then that's the
Uh-huh.
one that whatever the thing is happening during.
Okay. Okay. Well, I love that you went into the gene keys. That added a lot of depth to this workshop that I had no idea was going to happen. And I'll quickly say I am going through something right now in a relationship with a 45-year long relationship, friendship, and we're in a difficult spot. And I've been obsessing about it. And part of what I have felt was that her opinions have been imposed on me, and it's kind of surprising, but for a few years now this has been coming up, and I'm at this place where like, okay, I've had enough, and I need to set a boundary. But I haven't I mean, I've in smaller doses have tried, and it's not really gone anywhere. So I've been like, I can feel that there's some emotional ego part of me that's like getting ready to do this in a bigger way. But as you went through the shadow of Gene Key 17, I went, oh, that's where I'm coming from now. This is what I don't like about what she has done. And now I'm there. I want to do it. And like my ego wants to do that, and that's not going to work. So this has really helped me to
Wow.
step back and go, oh, I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to have to sit with this a while longer and just see what else can come up about how I can approach this, because I think maybe that's why I didn't move forward with it. I kind of knew it was not a good idea.
Wow. You had that intuitive, like, this isn't right. It's not, we gotta figure it out. Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
that's amazing.
it is. It is. I really appreciate it.
Yes, that's so wild. And then it's also like your 11th house friendships. So it
Yeah.
makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. How
Yeah.
aligned. Maybe you'll get some insight this weekend that's
Oh,
changing.
I'll ask for that this weekend. That's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, see what comes up. That's so wild. Oh my God. These are amazing shares, you guys. Like, oh, I don't know, Adrian. Oh, did you want to say something, Roseanne?
I just want to say I'm pretty blown away by all the wisdom you've shared and your skill. And I'm really, so this is my first experience seeing you in your element like this. I'm blown away, really.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Wow, that means a lot to me, for real. I'm happy to have you here. This is really a great group right here. I love you guys. Okay, I know we have Jasmine, Adrian, Frida. If any of you guys want to go, jump on in here.
My rising sign is Taurus.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so that's your Aries is your 12th house. Remember, you know what, Frida? It's the same like when we talked about for the Ostara for the spring equinox.
For sure.
It's the same thing, but we're looking at the bigger cycle. We're looking at since 2023, early 2023, you are coming full circle on what you have gained from being more within yourself, learning how to navigate the deep subconscious, learning, leaning more into the spiritual direction, or the dream direction, or even things that just come up that are so subconscious to be dealt with and seen and maybe brought to conscious awareness to be processed if it's like a traumatic thing, or just a gift that's been buried deep within to be brought out and recognized and navigate and use consciously. So that it's been more of a spiritual inward, almost hermited path for you for the past couple years that is coming to a full circle moment where you have grown in some way through that process. Does that make sense for you at all?
Yeah. Perfect.
Amazing. You're so welcome. And then Adrian, Jasmine, if either one of you guys are free, I would love to hear from both of you.
I think my rising is Sagittarius. I'm pretty sure.
So this would be your fifth house.
Okay.
So it's literally like opposite the girl, they're the Gemini rising gang that we have. They were
Okay.
11 fifth, you're fifth 11. So the focus has been more towards your own creativity, your own doing it in your own way. So even though
Okay.
you're not letting go of the group, you're not like isolating yourself or cutting off from like society, but you're not like merging with the group. You've already done that in a sense. Like the energy now is to be able to create your own thing, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be like you got pottery wheel and you're creating something in that way. It could be the creative energy to build a system, build a thing online, write a book,
Okay.
like anything that fuels that creative fire that you are like, I created this. So that has been the energy focus for the
Okay.
past years. So does that make sense for the past couple
Yes.
years for you?
Yes, that does make sense actually.
I know you're a creative person and naturally, so I'm sure I'm sure it wasn't too difficult for you.
No, it definitely makes sense. So I figured it'd be something interesting.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, I think that's mine though. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And then Jasmine, I don't know if you're free or if you have the little one. Oh, you wrote in the thing. Okay, wait, go ahead, talk.
Oh yeah, my rising is in Cancer.
Okay, so that's your 10th house then. So it's the
Yeah,
10th.
I'm Aquarius, Pisces, Cancer, Pisces moon. Cancer rising. I don't know. Yeah.
That's perfect. So yeah, so you're the Aries house for you. So where this energy has been transiting is in your 10th house of career. It's of being seen. The 10th house is like a place of authority where people, and it's a place where you shine your gifts down into the rest of everybody else that you grace your presence with. So it is associated with career, but it could just be you stepping into your gifts. So that was the focus. It was like the fourth house is the opposite of the 10th, and that's like you're sort of going within, you're in the home, you're in your body, you're very much like, kind of concealed. And then the 10th house is like you are coming out of your shell and sharing down the wisdom, the gifts, the things that you've learned into the world to the rest of us. So does that make sense? The past couple years, have you maybe put yourself out there more, gone into your gifts, changed careers, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm going through something right now, like how I've kind of just been like so much in my show and all these things. And I feel like I'm doing what I can do like to create and like make things, but like in the back burner, like I'm also like an author, but I stopped my book, like I unpublished it because I felt like there was a lot of factors, like I wasn't getting paid as much and all this stuff. And yeah, so I feel like all that information that I probably should spread and like, teach people more things that I know, but like I always kind of like self-doubt or whatever. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of a shy person. You know what I mean? So, but I'm trying to be better about it and like, you know, do things to put like boost my confidence, like make my own clothing and like all those things to like make myself feels better because I'm like kind of like a perfectionist. I always try to like bring myself down a little bit. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, it's even though the North Node is shifted already and it's in Pisces, we do have some really powerful transits coming for Aries for your 10th house. So there, Neptune and Aries is going to be huge. Um, I have a workshop on it coming up on the 3rd of April. I'm going to be doing like a paid workshop every month for the rest of the year. It's $22 if you want to come. I'm going to go like detailed in to Neptune, the last cycle we had with Neptune and Pisces, and then the cycle that we're going to have with Neptune and Aries. And it's 14 years long. And essentially, Neptune takes us from this like chaotic, confused, like wishy-washy, like I don't know what anything is, to connection to pure God source, connection to our bliss. Um, and that's the
That's
process.
awesome.
So that's gonna hit your career, dude. Like that's gonna hit your 10th house over the next 14 years. So
I think that's what I'm just trying to figure out is like what's gonna work for me because like I don't know if you follow me on Facebook, but I'm always like trying to sell different things. Like I have like so many different things that I sell and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of funny, but
that's
you know,
okay.
yeah, it's just I'm still just trying to like figure it out. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I feel you're gonna find a lot of through that transit, um, more inspired information on what you actually are going to be sharing through that process. But at first, it's going to feel like, I don't know. I don't know. It's all kind of confusing. It's all kind of everywhere. There's so many possibilities. Like it could be anything. But eventually, you're going to get really dialed in and get the clarity to know exactly what you want to put out, how you want to put it out. And it's changeable. Like it's totally changeable and have a million things. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't have a million things if that feels right for you. And then also Saturn's going to move into Aries too. And Saturn is naturally associated with the 10th house and with our work. So it's going to bring even more structure and focus into what you are going to put out and provide people and just share in like from the things that you've learned and the person that you are. And that's always growing as well. You're gonna level up in how you are perceived. People are gonna see you in a different way from a more like responsible, put together, like structured way. Like they're gonna see you more integrated with that Saturn transit. So don't worry about it. It's coming for you. So it's happening, okay? All right, you guys. I know Jasmine's internet can be a little bit in and out, but all right. Yes.
I was just gonna mention that it was actually I don't know who it was, but I think they said they were the Sagittarius rising, but it was basically flipped.
Yeah.
That was helpful to hear that because I don't think I caught the that it's going from one area and focusing to the other. So I think hearing the opposite was helpful.
Yes. Yes. Perfect.
So I just Googled before out of curiosity because it seems like you have a lot more solar eclipses over there than we do, or visible ones anyway.
Really?
And I just had to check because I feel like I have memory of seeing a full solar eclipse in my lifetime, but I have had no idea when it was. So I thought I'm just going to look, and it was October the 23rd, 1976. That was quite a while ago. I was very little, but I do remember. Anyway, and
Wow.
the next one here is 2030. So November 2030.
Coming up.
So I guess it's fairly infrequent here because of our geographical placement. I don't know.
I don't even know when the last solar eclipse was visible in North America before that last one. I feel like it was such a rare event. Like people making a huge deal about it. So I don't know how long it had been previous because I know some people were like kids were not in school. Like it was like a holiday.
Yeah.
So it's really entertaining. It's cool though. I wish we could always get holidays for astrological events, you know?
Yeah. Well, it says here media coverage. So it goes through a whole list of things, and it says media coverage. Optometrists even led a media campaign urging Victorians to only view the eclipse on TV.
Conspiracy now.
And then it says the eclipse caused a real sense of occasion with people holding parties and barbecues to welcome the eclipse.
That's so fun and wild. Yeah, I'm kind of like I when the solar eclipse happened here, I did not go. I took a walk that morning, but when it was in the height of the eclipse, I stayed inside because I really felt like it just felt right, even though my like ego self was like, I want to see it, like, you know, I want to see it. But and we were living in Mexico on a work trade thing. So there were some other people living there too, and they were outside, I think, sunbathing in it. But I remember the feeling was so weird. It was like literally like this a buzz in the air. You could almost hear a buzz. And it was like so still for a moment. It was like nature just stopped. And it really was the trippiest thing. And but I really did feel like I had my head covered and it felt really good. And I felt like I didn't want the girls to go outside because there's just something that the ancient people were saying, especially with kids, like that maybe because they're so receptive, maybe it has to do with the crown or the something where it's like I don't really know. I'm not an expert on it. I wish I knew more.
The sun is crown energy though, so it makes sense to me to have that cover. And I was just thinking, the only thing I've seen that's not even similar really, but you know, that whole, you know, the middle of the day becoming night is through extreme fire. So really, really immense bushfires happening where
So
the
scary.
whole, I guess so, but yeah, it just looked like the middle of the night in the middle of the day rapidly, and stayed like that for, I think, 36 hours or something. It was bizarre.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. And it's like we would be so much more naturally inclined to do like with if we didn't have all the lights and all the false things, so it's like, oh yeah, we know that the full moon is out and I can see outside at night, and that happens about once a month for like maybe a couple days where I can do that. Like you're just like like, oh, that feels like a time that we are gonna be like, there's a higher energy, we're gonna get together, we're gonna do this. When it's dark, it's like, we're kind of like, it's just you're so much more attuned to that, and now it's like we have to think about it like what would be the right thing? What feels right, Um, it's so funny, but it is really interesting. It's like that would occur so rarely where it'd be the middle of the day and then it's dark, where you're saying it's like either there's a freaking event happening of like things, there's a fire, there's like some crazy situation where we kind of need to like be alert and like know what's going on with our surroundings. It's just very interesting. It's not casual. Nothing was casual when we like everything was significant. And I feel like we missed that. I missed that. Like I want more significance. And then you like gotta make your own significance. And I don't feel that I have any like passed down traditions, not even from my parent, like really nothing. It's like so then it's you gotta make your own things. And that's I feel like that's a big wound that modern people, a lot of modern people, obviously not everybody, in the Western world, I guess, that we deal with that where we're like, we don't have a lot of traditions. Maybe we have some, and maybe they're not even that old. Maybe they are. And it's just like, where do you create the significance in your life? Because for ancient civilizations, everything was significant. Like life was significant. So every little event had its own special correlation. Like, oh, you plant the seed on this day when the moon is this, and everything was like so powerfully intertwined. And I just like want to know what that is like. You know what I mean? That you would try to create it, but it's hard sometimes because you're kind of going in blind. And I get that's part of the process with our evolution. Like we had to get to this place. And there's a beauty in it too, because we get to create something completely new. But it's kind of like the North Node, South Node experience. We can't create something new and completely disregard the old. It does not work properly. It's imbalanced. So there's always going to be a piece for these old traditions that did. You're so welcome. Bye. No worries. Um, there is gonna like we need to I don't even know what I was saying, but you know what I mean. Like the people that hold these traditions very deeply, and I think that's what's happening now. It's like there's this big insurgence of people really sharing this traditional wisdom. And it's not as specific to a culture as it used to be. Like there's a lot more like people need this. Like humanity needs to have tradition. And it's not just for one culture, one group, one family anymore. Like that might have been how it was when everybody's culture had its own thing. Now it's like half the cultures don't really are completely cut off. And so humans crave the ceremony, crave significance, crave tradition, but we also crave the new thing. And the people that don't have the tradition, they're on the leading edge of the new thing. The people that do have the tradition, like they're on the leading edge of like bringing that forward for like it's like together we create the balance. Um, so we'll see how that plays out.
That's just really stuck into my mind, you saying all of that though too, because it's just made me think, just with the way I've lived over the past few years, and being so close to nature, living in a tent, I could have really tuned in to the natural rhythm of my surrounds and everything that was going on. But I feel like, there's been an element of disconnect because of all of the other energetic things going on in my life at the time. And I could have, really tuned into that and created those traditions through my experience. Anyway, we have created certain things and aspects in our life that we wouldn't have otherwise. But yeah, that just really made me think about that. And, I guess that's how those things evolved, because of the closeness to nature and being able to have that wisdom of the stars and everything else. I remember when we very first moved into living in a tent, just spending so much time watching the stars come and move across the sky, and just feeling that deeper connection.
Yeah. So powerful. It's so cool.
I wanted to comment on something, Nicole, that you said. I personally feel like I'm glad I was born in this time frame, because if it was, centuries or hundreds and hundreds of years back, I would have been the person, like, with my anxiety at having like something like a solar eclipse would have just absolutely terrified me. So I'd much rather have like a barbecue or a or a little celebration of it than that. And Rachel, I just wanted to comment on something you said. So I recently went rediscovered solo camping during the pandemic. Like, I'd grown up going camping all my life, but I'd never gone on my own. And I vividly remember I was camping on my own. It was a full moon, and it was so bright. Like, I could see like the mice like playing with each other in like through the leaves. They were just like frolicking, literally just like
Oh,
playing. And it's just like, yeah, like if you miss out on those aspects, if you're just like, oh, I poke my head out and oh yeah, it's a full moon, and you just like go back in. But like it was so bright, like I
oh my God. What just happened? I don't know, the power just like went out. Yeah. That's crazy. Well.